Kia ora koutou, no mai haere mai, and welcome to Frogs on Friday. Now, before we get started with the show, I did want to just acknowledge the tragic events of yesterday in Tamaki Makaurau, and our thoughts are with all of those who have been affected, along with whānau. It's a really sad and unsettling events, obviously, and I just wanted to I guess to put the word out there to look after yourselves and others as well. Now, on a brighter note, I also wanted to give a shout out to the co-hosts of the FIFA World Cup. So it's fantastic that both the Matildas and the Football Ferns have come away with wins to open the tournament. And what better way to bring some joy back to Auckland and New Zealand than for the Football Ferns to really rise to the grand occasion, to outplay Norway and to claim their first ever World Cup win. So just sensational. Well done, team. Now, speaking of Australians, as we get back into Frogs on Friday, I have a very special guest here today, Charles Cameron, who is the Chief Executive of RCSA Australia and New Zealand, which is the industry body for recruitment. Now, Charles is actually going to take over Mahi Media today. Hopefully, there's been a few little technical difficulties, so hopefully that will still work out. But as typical Aussies, he said, give it a whirl. We'll see what happens. Also on the show, as always, we'll go through some of our hot jobs and finish off with the social media polls. So let's go through to Mahi Media. All right, so thrilled to have Charles Cameron here with me today. And the RCSA has just released the jobs report for New Zealand for April to June this year. So pretty fast work to get that out so early in July. And, you know, it's been, the last few years have definitely been some very interesting markets and hard to keep up with. And I think maybe I'm going to have to adjust my spiel a little bit on the market. Maybe I've had some rose-tinted glasses on when I look through the report and some of the realities. So Charles is here to tell us how things are looking in New Zealand, and really interested to know what are some of the key takeaways for us here in Aotearoa.
Kia ora, Shannon, and thanks very much for the opportunity to talk about all things jobs, and also I'd like to pass on my condolences and understanding of all those impacted by that tragic event in Auckland. We've in fact had a number of our members who had workers working on the site who have been clearly quite impacted. So it's really brought that home. Absolutely, on a brighter note, well done to the New Zealand women's football team and also to our Matildas. I must say, however, I'm very much looking to get the tips and tricks from the Kiwis on how to beat baseball. I'm a bit of a cricket nut, and I know you guys took it up to them over there early in the year. So yeah, any tips and tricks, I'm definitely up for it. But interesting time of the world.
I think we might keep those close to the chest, actually.
Come on, we're brothers, we're sisters, we can get along. But interesting time in the world of jobs, that's for sure. I think all the things that we normally expect are sort of being flipped on their head, and I think that's because this isn't a normal recession. It's a recession that's underpinned by, really low levels of unemployment, and even over here, we had our unemployment data here. I'm coming to you from Sydney today. We had our unemployment data come out, and where everyone actually thought that there were a whole heap of people being laid off, unemployment has actually decreased even further. So I don't think the way in which we normally look at job markets could really predict the future, but hey, we can give it a bit of a go.
Absolutely. Now, looking through, as I said, there's been some rapid changes, and particularly, once you get a handle on the current quarter, conditions change. There's new challenges come along, and we're looking at a different environment. How does the June quarter compare with that previous quarter in New Zealand? So I think there's been some quite dramatic changes already.
Yeah, look, I mean, the last 3 quarters have been interesting. You had a really big drop in New Zealand the quarter before last. It stabilised last quarter, but now we've seen it really fall off a bit of a cliff, certainly in the private sector, Shannon. So what's interesting here is that we've seen 23.7% reduction in job postings. So remember, this isn't necessarily people being offered jobs. This is hirers, employers, businesses, government actually posting jobs onto thousands of different websites across New Zealand as well. So really, maybe it's more an insight into their sentiment, what they're looking for, their levels of confidence around the future. But the fact that it's really dropped off and quite significantly is certainly of concern. Certainly when I was over in Aotearoa only last month, certainly I would say that there's quite different sentiment in the marketplace as well. So I think this is really just a demonstration of lowering what I call business confidence as well. So tech professionals, interestingly, down 28.7% in terms of job postings. Certainly one of the things we're also seeing is the increase in the number of jobs being posted by government. So health, education and community professionals, interestingly, has actually risen by 24.5%, as you can see there on that diagram. And public administrators marginally up 1.6%. So we wonder whether that's all on the back of a lot of course, the natural disasters that Aotearoa New Zealand has actually been impacted by over the last 12 months. We suspect so, but it is very concerning. We're seeing accommodation and food services. We know what an amazing tourist economy exists in Aotearoa New Zealand. It's concerning to see that drop right off. So yeah, it's certainly an insight that things are starting to probably replicate, I guess, some of the data around the recession in New Zealand.
It's been really interesting. As I said, maybe I've had the rose-coloured glasses on and had a bit of a positive spin to my market spiel so far this year. But speaking to some other colleagues within the recruitment industry as well, the feeling has been that it is very patchy. So there's in some areas it's business as usual. It feels more like a return to just a normal market, so a pre-COVID market. But then in other pockets, and it may be not even necessarily industries, but sometimes the size of the company, whether they have an overseas parent, for example, has a big impact, and there's some really challenging areas as well. So it's always really interesting to navigate. Now, for our job seekers, as you showed, it's not across the board. What would your advice be, perhaps, for those who might be looking to make a change or are stepping into the market, new grads, etc.? What kind of industries or occupations are looking the best at the moment or likely to have the best prospects?
Yeah, look, one of the things to remember with all this, Shannon, is that, look, again, I remind everybody who's viewing this that we're really talking about job postings. It's not necessarily the opportunities. And I guess that sentiment that you've just talked about, feeling that there's a degree of buoyancy in the market, is probably replicated across a whole range of other recruitment and staffing companies in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So we would say that in many circumstances, it appears that a lot of businesses and indeed government are working more strategically strategically both direct to market and also with recruitment and staffing agencies, like Frog and others. So one of the things I would suggest to everybody is don't give up hope. The reality is that I do think that there is still hot demand and a recognition of the need to hold on to good talent. And again, good talent is not just those in the professional segment. It's, of course, those that keep our food in the supermarkets, deliver food into restaurants and otherwise. It's probably that they're not just hanging it out there by job advertising. So I think direct or indeed using an agency, an agent like Frog is certainly something that we'd be strongly recommending everybody to consider. Probably one of the other things that we're finding really interesting with this data is that typically, and you would know this being somebody representing a great recruitment brand in the market there, is that typically we see when we have something approaching or indeed technically a recession as exists in New Zealand at this point in time, normally what we'd see is we'd actually see permanent employment significantly decrease, and we'd actually see an increase in the amount of flexible work opportunities. Interestingly, the jobs report this time around is actually saying there's been quite a plummet in flexible work opportunities, but nowhere near as great a decrease in the number of permanent job opportunity decreases. So to that extent, I think what it says is that businesses in New Zealand are still looking to hold on to the right talent. So I would be working really strategically to understand what are your skill sets and can you transfer those skill sets from one occupational class over to another occupational class. Really, to that extent, it's probably the best advice I can be given. Don't give up hope, but think more strategically and get good advice from people who really understand the market and where those pockets, as you call them, actually exist.
Yeah, fantastic. Just one thing on the decrease in the flexible work options. Do you think some of that is because there's been a massive increase in that and employers being more open to those other options? And again, maybe that's leveling out a bit?
I think so. I think we are, as you described earlier, we are normalising. We're still normalising. It's still 27% I think, or maybe 23.7% down on the same time last year. But it was really buoyant this time last year. It seems like a lot longer than 1 year ago that things in the market were a lot more buoyant and everyone was competing for talent. I think the one thing I understand now is that we really see a lot more up and down occurring. So, where we might have seen longer cycles occurring, in pre-COVID world, we're actually seeing the markets going up and down. So just because the opportunities may have dropped off or the job advertisements may have dropped off at this point in time, I don't actually think it means that they will remain really subdued. I think what we'll see is in the New Zealand market, and we've seen experience of this globally as well, when you see a slight uptick, business will be very quick to respond and they'll be looking to bring people on. It probably will see an increase in the number of flexible job opportunities because we don't necessarily want to lock ourselves into permanent ongoing roles because we're still a little bit suspect around where the economy is going, especially because Aotearoa New Zealand is impacted more greatly, I think, by global economic conditions. So, I think it's about timing and being prepared to really present as best as you can when the opportunity arises. But, I must say, in my 25 years of analysing this market, I've never seen the nuances that are actually existing in this particular market. But it's there. It's just that people in business aren't going to go and what we describe as talent hoard. They're not going to go and do what they did shortly after COVID, where they'd almost over-employ people in fear that they won't be able to find them into the future.
Thank you for that. Now, I was going to say that one of our viewers has put a comment in, and you said it was hard to predict, and they're really putting you on the spot there. So Terry asked, what does Charles think is going to happen in the next 6 months? Luckily, I think you covered most of the the key points and hedged your bets there. But I guess any takeaways or tips for what you think is in store for the immediate future?
Look, I think it will hit a bit of a plateau, is my guesstimate. I don't think we'll continue to see plummeting job ads. I think they've come down. I think they'll probably recover slightly, but essentially neutral. I think it makes it a better place for job hunters to be able to actually understand where are the sustainable jobs, where are those jobs within business and government that are going to be there in, 6, 12, 18 months time. So, yeah, my prediction is that, and this is from having good discussions across the country, North Island, South Island last month, I still feel there's an underlying belief that the New Zealand economy is and does have a good framework, a good basis for ongoing confidence. I just think we're a little bit more reactive at this point in time. So I wouldn't be overreacting to these numbers at this point in time. So, look, mind you, I'm an optimist, I believe, and I think a lot of this comes back to how people behave and how people respond. I've seen a real maturity in the market within Aotearoa New Zealand that, let's not overdo this and let's not almost create an ongoing recession. So, I'm relatively confident.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for those insights. There's a link up on the screen there if you are interested in delving into more of the finer details from the job report. There's a link there to be able to follow. Thank you so much for joining us. Good luck with the rest of the World Cup, and we'll see you on the flip side. Thanks,
Thank
Charles.
you, Shannon. Good to speak.
Okay. Now, before we jump into the jobs, I just wanted to say, if you saw my screen wobbling around and you were worried that I might be experiencing an earthquake here as well, that was actually just my work from home office dog, Bo, underneath the desk. So that's what all the movement was there. And you may have noticed I'm about to lose my voice. So we'll just see how we're going. We're all up against it today, but the show must go on. All right, so our first role for Auckland is a temp role based in Whangarei in Northland. This is a data analyst role. This one, if you have SQL experience, will be a huge benefit for this position. It looks like a broad role with a mixture of collection and collation of data, as well as, of course, the analytical expertise there as well. If you do want to find out more or know someone in Whangarei who might be right for that role, get in touch with Shavneil in our Auckland office. Okay, let's see what the perm role is. So we have a digital marketing specialist. This one's based in Parnell. Competitive salary, so it looks like there might be some flexibility based on experience there. And looking for someone particularly with experience with e-commerce platforms, as well as user experience optimization. For this one, get in touch with our marketing specialist, Julia Yen, in the Auckland office. Okay, so let's have a look to see a sample of some of the jobs on offer at our branches overseas. Okay, so we have a temp role in London, a personal assistant, looking at £21 per hour. And this one, so it's kind of I guess a good thing and a bad thing. So we have Maddie Lang as the consultant looking after this. The only reason it's a bad thing is I'm sure the Australian or the Sydney team will be missing her as she's taken the opportunity to join the UK team in London. So if you're interested in this role, or again, about to make the move to the UK, get in touch with Maddie or the rest of the team in our London office. Okay, let's have a look at the Australian job.
Hi, it's Michelle from People to People Recruitment. I look after the Victorian Government account here at People to People, and I'm looking for administrators to work for a state government department in the health space on a temporary basis. This role would require someone to support the team by providing assistance with administrative duties. This organisation is located in Melbourne's eastern suburbs and offers flexible working arrangements. This role is paying $44 per hour plus super. If this sounds like a role you'd be interested in, please reach out now.
Excellent. So some great opportunities in our overseas branches as well, as usual. Let's go through now, before I lose my voice, and finish off with the social media polls. All right, so we talked about whether you're more likely to come to work if there was a dog in the office, perhaps one right under your desk. And very pleased to see that the dogs won it out. So 60% said yes, that would definitely encourage me to come in. Still a strong showing from the nose there. I guess the cat people are entitled to their say as well. All right, let's have a look at this week's. Okay, so we've talked a lot, and it's been a huge theme or trend particularly over the last couple of years for flexible working and work from home options. So if your current job suddenly stopped that and withdrew those opportunities, would you look for another role? Is it that important? I think I know how this one is going to come out, but put your votes in and have your say. All right, that is it for today. I think the team obviously didn't tune into the show we had a few weeks ago on absenteeism and not coming to the office when you're sick. So half the team is out. So I'm going to sign off now and go to bed, I think. So see you next week. Thanks for joining.